Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20-plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate podcast. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how you doing today?
I am all good in the hood, Joe. I did have a little bit of trouble this morning. I don't know how you have a kid that's homeschooling, which mine are right now, due to, whatever's going on in the world, that is late for school. I can't find my computer was her excuse. And I looked over my shoulder and I said, it's right there on the couch. Right. So, just the joys of motherhood and homeschooling is happening over here today. But where are you at? Where can we all be jealous of today, Joe?
Well, I'm still in Steamboat Springs, which is awesome, but it doesn't look like we're going to get much snow for the next week or so, and we leave here on the 28th. We did, however, have about, they only reported about 7 inches, but I would say it was more like 12 inches on Sunday, just like a super great powder day on Sunday. So I'm happy.
Have you heard about what's going on over here in our mountains?
The avalanches? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. We just dumped and dumps of snow here. We tried to go on Monday up to Stevens. We got turned back. One of our friends got stuck up there because of avalanche stuff. I mean, it's just been dumping like, a foot or two of snow over 48 hours every couple days. So today Highway 2 is totally closed because they have all these natural avalanches happening. And even in places that haven't had the run, I guess, in like 10 years, it's pretty nutty. So wow. There's your snow report, guys. Speaking of reports, trying to make a good transition today. We're going to cover a special topic to get the word out to everyone about the changes coming to the new Washington Energy Code. And to do that, we have Mr. Jonny Nylen with us today of Tacoma Furnace Company to give us all the details of what to expect, how this is going to affect your real estate projects, costs, busting the myths and the concerns. Without further ado, welcome, Jonny. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Julie. Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me here today. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful to join you guys.
I got to tell you something, Jonny. I am super impressed with you already. You know why? Because we don't know each other very well at all. And my screen here says Addison, and you actually said my correct name. So I appreciate that today. You guys, I'm a total dork. I keep swapping around computers with my kids, and I always forget to change my Chrome. But thanks, Jonny. That just shows us how much of a attention to detail guy you are. So we'll let you keep going. Right?
Some days.
Yes, sir. You clearly have a passion for what you do, your craft. So how long have you been working in the HVAC biz, by the way?
I started in 2008, which is actually, it's only been 13 years. But I double some of that time because I, for many years, have run my own company on the side and worked 40 to 60 hours a week while also working a full-time job in the field for another company full-time. So I've got a lot of years, my tax returns, they let me know I feel it. I've got a lot of years of double time in this industry. Specifically since 2012, I have worked no less than about 100 hours a week every week for almost a decade now. I'm actually really glad I'm starting to flip houses so that I can start getting some buy and hold so I can work a little bit less.
Good stuff.
But I tell people I've got the equivalent of about 20 years of experience. I have a degree in HVAC, and I've worked every job. I started out as a lowly helper, carrying up nitrogen tanks up 3 stories on a rickety ladder to do commercial installs. I worked my way up to running that same company as the service manager. I actually left the field at one point and went to work for a supply house, which was really cool. I got to see the logistics side and the kind of the inventory management side of how parts get ordered. I got hired off the counter at that supply house to go be an estimator for a guy, where I spent a couple of years and I estimated about $25 million worth of projects. My largest one was like a $4.5 million HVAC renovation to Oh God. That one was the apartment buildings. There was, I don't even know how many apartments. It was like 200 or 300 apartments in one complex. And we were putting a bid together to replace every single unit in under a year.
Wow.
All those apartments. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Sounds like you could write a book, a little ebook or something.
With all the experience I've got, I could. I moved out to the left coast in 2016. I'm a native Virginian, and it breaks my heart some days, but I'll never go back. It's too pretty out here. It's far too pretty out here, and it's a big transition and a big change from Virginia for sure. But when I got out here, I got hired as I was pulling into my new apartment. I had no job lined up. I came out here with my fiance at the time, and she had a job offer. And as we're pulling up into the new apartment, I get a phone interview, and I get hired as a refrigeration engineer by a manufacturer who had this brand new refrigerant. It was going to change the world. It's energy saving. It's great. And I spent some time working with them for quite a while, traveling all over the country. I got to work on systems big and small and do the actual engineering and design on system design, on retrofit, and training contractors. I created a national training program for contractors that they still use today. And after I left them, I ended up starting my own company out here. I started out as a GC because there was no licensure for being a mechanical or a GC contractor out here in Washington. There's no experience requirements. There's no education requirements to be a mechanical contractor, which is insane to me. And that's a whole nother thing with Washington state law and L&I that I could talk on that one for hours. So I was a GC for 2 years. And last year I kind of shook things up, took everything back down to basics, opened up a new LLC, and I'm now just a designated mechanical contractor because HVAC is what I love. And as much as I enjoy flipping houses, I'd rather flip them for myself.
I hear that.
And managing other people's flips is always it's so much work. It's so much work. But I did it. I did it as an owner operator for 2 years, and I will thankfully only do it again on my own projects.
Let's jump into it today.
So let's jump into the code.
I am no expert, so I'm literally going to turn the mic over to you today. Let you take us through, what we need to know. Treat us like we're stupid here for a minute, which I'll say I'm stupid. So,
no one's stupid when it comes to HVAC. It's just a matter of people don't know. So I've got this really cool report. I will send you guys the link to it. I have it in Google Docs. I can put it in a PDF, or I can share it to you guys when we're done here or when I finish the last couple sections. But I've actually got a whole report that breaks down everything I'm talking about today.
Awesome.
But what we're going to kick it off with is we're going to kick off how heat pumps work. The biggest thing about this new energy code that has taken everyone by surprise, and it really shouldn't because this code was published in 2018. But we've put off putting it into effect. Usually it's weird. On the international side, on the big codes, they're every 3 years and they tend to skip. It's about every 6 years you get a new code you have to adjust to. It phases in, you get adjusted to it, and you have a couple of years with it before the new code gets thrown at you. With this energy code, it was actually delayed until July. And Governor Inslee decided that he would wave his gavel and he would make it go into effect immediately. So this code is already in effect. And silly me, I'd never bothered to read it until I got a frantic call from one of my clients who's doing a project up in Shoreline. And he's like, hey, man, there's this new energy code. I have no idea what I'm looking at. Can I send you and have my architect send you the sheets? Because I don't know what I'm looking at and I'm really confused. And I was like, sure. Let me look at it. And I went, oh, we're on the new code. When did that happen? And I looked at it and it was like, oh, as of February 1st, we're on the new code. So let's go learn the code. And the biggest thing is.
So this is as of February 1st?
As of February 1st, 2021, the 2018 Washington State Energy Code is now in full effect. A lot of the jurisdictions that independently decide and address their own codes. So City of Seattle, Bellevue, Issaquah, Burien and Des Moines, Fedway, they are still tweaking their own code or their own variations of the code. John Thomas is a City of Seattle refrigeration inspector, and he's my favorite inspector. I see him on my jobs all the time, and he and I have been talking about it quite a bit. They are still working on kind of honing in the last bits of code, and there's a couple of lines in the code that would make it retroactively enforced for major alterations. And this is where...
Let me ask you one quick question. So are you saying that we have a code for the state of Washington that is now in effect February 1st, but all the individual cities have their overlay on top of that they're still tweaking?
Correct. And everyone's really upset because they had until July to figure it out. So they had a bunch of meetings scheduled for March and April to discuss the code and figure out what they were going to change and what they were going to adapt. A great example of this, the International Fuel Gas Code, which regulates gas burning appliances as well as how we run our gas pipe. City of Seattle has its very own International Fuel Gas Code. They've basically marked out a few sections and gone a little bit more stringent on some sections, especially when it comes to sizing CSST, or corrugated stainless steel tubing. That's that flex gas hose. It's not the stuff that's right at the unit. It's the stuff that gets run inside the walls. It's what we call CSST. The City of Seattle has its own requirements for how it's bonded separately and what sizes and what the allowable pressure drops are, basically forcing us to run larger piping. And that's different from the International Fuel Gas Code. So like Seattle has its own charts. Some of the changes City of Seattle is looking at is how the major alterations are going to be affected. One of the big things about this code that scared the crap out of everybody, myself included, is that major alterations have to achieve 1.5 credits on the energy code, which means that on any flip that you do where you're tearing open walls and moving stuff around, you've got to update to the new code. And you have to fill out an energy code worksheet, which it's all available online. If you just Google search 2018 Washington State Energy Code, it takes you to Washington State University, who has a web page that lands on the energy code. It's got all the worksheets. You can download them. They download as Excel files, and it's literally just plug in the blank. But it's a good 4 or 5 hours of work if you don't know what you're doing. And it's a couple hours of work because you have to do things like you have to input what we call your glazing schedule. So the glazing schedule on the energy code worksheet is the sum total up all your windows that you have that are going in that are new. We need the square footage in size. And we also need a couple of numbers off them. No one ever pays attention to them. They just look at the size, but they're stickers on the window. They have a U factor. They have an R factor. They have a whole host of different numbers and values and factors that are all punched in on the window. And those all go into a little calculator that Washington State Energy Code has put together. And part of that glazing schedule goes into my stuff, which is the heating load calculator. We have to size the units for HVAC based on the heat loss of the house. You know, it used to be back in the day, you could go, 1,200 square foot house. Rule of thumb says we need a 3-ton, 60,000 BTU gas furnace. 60 to 80,000 BTUs, 3 to 4 tons, 1,200 square feet. You're going to end up with anywhere from, 10 to 14 vents. And, we can just sit down and just guesstimate it just on square footage, which is not the actual way to do it. Just so everybody knows, it's not how you're supposed to do it. And the Washington Energy Code has its own heat sizing system calculator that says, here's your heat load, here is your correction factor, basically being in case your math screwed up, and here is the largest size you can have if you do a heat pump, here's the largest size you can do if you can do a gas furnace. And it's really cool because it helps you size things. It is really interesting in places like Bellevue, where I just did an install for my friends Jesse Coe and Chris Myers. And
Chris Myers.
Yeah, he's great. I love them. They're an awesome team, those two. And they have a 3,400 square foot house in Bellevue they're building. They're building one right next to it. And the energy code worksheet blew my mind because it was limited to 60,000 BTUs for a gas furnace. For perspective, a 3,400 square foot home, we would usually put in like an 80 to 90,000 BTU furnace with about 4 tons of air. And we have that 4 tons of air because there's an old rule of thumb in the older code, in the mechanical code, that says residentially you should have no less than a half a cubic foot of air per minute per square foot. So if you just take the square footage of the house, divide by 2, that should be your airflow. Well, if we talk about airflow and tons, 1 ton of airflow is 400 cubic feet per minute, approximately. It's 350 to 450, but we pick 400 as the rule of thumb for the trade. So when we talk about an 80,000 BTU 4-ton system, we're talking about 1,600 feet per minute. That should easily handle a 3,200 to 3,400 square foot house. No, I just did a 3,400 square foot house with 3 tons of air, which is only 1,200 cubic feet of air, which is not a lot given the cubic volume of the house. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about in here when we get to it is air changes per hour in a house and what all that means. I'm going to kind of jump into this and go through. Like I said, I wrote up kind of a guide for this energy code because it's complicated. And we start off explaining what heat pumps are. And that is because everyone remembers the rebates you could get in the last couple of years for furnaces. There's no longer a furnace rebate whatsoever. There are no more rebates for fuel burning appliances, in part because of the Paris Accords and in part because of a whole bunch of things. We are switching to heat pumps in this state. Like it or not, we're going heat pump. And everybody goes, wait. Heat pumps don't work below 40 degrees. They do, and I'm going to explain it for you guys. But the basics of heating and cooling, right? If you have a gas furnace, you're going to take methane, which is what our natural gas is. You're going to take methane, and you're going to burn it. And when you burn it, you're going to produce H2O, which is water vapor, and you're going to produce CO2. If you have proper combustion, that's 99.9% of everything you're going to make is CO2 and H2O. And that's it. And that's going to go up and out through the big fat B vent chimney flue you have. That's if you've got a steel pipe around your furnace or coming off of your furnace, not the ductwork, but the exhaust pipe. If it's a steel pipe, you have B vent and what we call an 80% furnace. And they're not very efficient, but they work great. You're burning natural gas, and that's how you're heating your home. If you have a heat pump, though, this is what everybody doesn't understand. Heat pumps are air conditioners. There's no difference between a heat pump and an air conditioner, with the exception of you have a couple extra valves and switches inside the outdoor unit. So if Julie, if you came to me and said, hey, Johnny, I want air conditioning for my house. And I said, okay, Julie, no problem. It's going to cost X. I'm going to go put a coil in on your inside underneath your furnace so that your furnace can still power the fan that blows things, that blows air through your ductwork. We're going to put a coil in there. And then on the outside, I can get you a basic standard Mach 1 Mod 0 straight AC unit. It sucks. It's inefficient, but we only use cooling for 600 hours out here in Washington, approximately per year. And you say, okay, great, but I heard about these other options. Well, I can put a heat pump on there and create what we call a dual fuel system. And what happens is the heat pump, because of our mild weather in Western Washington specifically, the heat pump is going to wipe out about 70% of the runtime hours. If you're about 2,000, it's gonna take up about 1,400 hours of that 2,000 hours a year runtime is going to be on your heat pump and your electricity bill instead of your gas bill. But the thing is, newer heat pumps are more efficient than your old 80% gas furnace. And people go, well, how does a heat pump work? And so in order to explain a heat pump, I got to teach you guys the very, very basics of HVAC. So you're going to get an intro to HVAC here.
Sounds good to me.
What we're going to do is we have this compressor. And a compressor is a vapor pump. Compressors can't compress liquid. Liquid is non-compressible. Don't ask me, I didn't invent physics. Liquid is not compressible, only vapor is. So what we're going to do is we're going to compress a bunch of vapor and we're going to get it really, really hot. We're going to take that hot gas and we're going to run it through a coil and we're going to make this the inside coil. We're going to have that heat pump. It's going to make this compressor compress and it's going to run that hot gas inside the coil of your house. Well, if you have cold air running across a hot coil, that hot coil is going to start, the refrigerant inside of it is going to start condensing, and it's going to condense into a liquid. This is why we call that outdoor unit a condenser typically, and that comes from the AC days. So as a heat pump, we are actually condensing the hot gas into a hot liquid refrigerant, and we're doing that inside your house. We are giving heat from the refrigerant into the airstream of your house. And we're going to shoot liquid refrigerant right back to the outdoor unit. Now, this liquid refrigerant is going to go through a little tiny hole that we call metering device. That can be an expansion valve of electric or thermal, or it can be a basic orifice. There's a couple of different things, but the real thing is we're going to run all this liquid, and we're going to slam it up against this little itty bitty tiny hole. And on the other side of that hole, it is going to create a low pressure zone and a low pressure side of the system. And it's low pressure because when you have a restriction in a line, it goes from high pressure to low pressure. And so what we're doing is we're creating a man-made restriction in the line to create a low pressure side. And when you take that liquid refrigerant and you shoot it into the low pressure side, the pressure is a lot lower. So that gas transitions from liquid to vapor, and that vapor provides a cooling effect because there's a lot of energy that's lost in the change of state. So that vapor is going to go and cool the outside, essentially. It's going to cool it down. It's like anti-global warming. We're going to cool the outside by heating our houses. And it runs through that coil outside, and that cold vapor goes right back to the compressor, and it's going to get compressed again and run through the system again. So it goes from a hot gas, the compressor makes it into a hot gas, it goes to a liquid, that liquid gets changed back into a low pressure, low temperature gas to provide a cooling effect. And when you see frost or ice on your outdoor heat pump on a cold day, it's because 60% of all cooling that's done by these systems is actually done in what we call latent heat, which means that it's moisture removal, and it's condensing the moisture that's in the air. So if you go outside and your heat pump is frosted over and you have frost on it, that's totally normal. Don't freak out. Everybody does. I don't know. I usually get about 20 calls the first frost of the year because people come out and they see their heat pump has ice on it. And they go, "Oh no, Johnny, what's wrong?" And I say, "It's normal. It's fine. Leave me alone."
There you go.
It's how it's supposed to be. Have a great day. And that's because it's condensing the liquid in the air, and the coil itself is below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it's causing those water molecules that it's condensing, it's causing those to freeze right away. So we're going to talk about BTUs for a minute, British thermal units. So fun thing, a British thermal unit is somehow not on the kilogram scale or the metric scale at all. It's on the American scale. A BTU is the amount of energy required to transition 1 pound of water 1 degree Fahrenheit over 1 hour of time. Okay, so it's 111, just straight across the board. 1 BTU is 1 pound of water, 1 degree Fahrenheit over 1 hour. So if we want to change water into ice, and we've got 1 pound of water, we can have water at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the freezing point, right? Until we take out 144 BTUs of heat out of that water, that amount of heat is what it takes to change that pound of water into a pound of ice. So what I like to start with is a pound of ice. And I say, I have a pound of ice and it's 32 degrees. I'm going to add 144 BTUs, change it into 1 pound of water. I'm going to add 180 BTUs to take 32 degree water and turn it into 212 degree water, which is the boiling point, right? So at this point, we've added 324 BTUs to my 1 pound of ice, and my water is about ready to boil. But I can't turn that entire pound of water into steam until I've added 970 BTUs. So 3 times the energy that it took to take a pound of ice at freezing and get it all the way up to boiling. It takes 3 times the energy to turn that into actual steam. And so refrigerant, the numbers look even better. And it varies per refrigerant, by the way, which is why I don't have all the refrigerant numbers on there.
I don't know why while we're talking about this, I keep going like, man, Jonny needs to talk to all these pharmaceutical companies who are making this vaccine that have to keep it cool or whatever. I don't know why that's popping into my head, but
so fun story. I worked for a contractor in Virginia, and I used to work on the NIH building. And I've actually worked on some of the cryogenic units. There's nothing like a phone call at 3:00 in the morning because a cryogenic unit has gone down, and you have to suit up and go into, a level 3 containment zone and work on a cryogenic unit that is usually used to hold deadly diseases. I was home about 25 or 26 of the time, and the whole time I was just getting there like, oh God, please don't die. No, they'd already moved all the viruses and everything to another, they'd already moved all the stuff to another freezer, but still, you're working on a freezer that, typically holds things like Ebola and tuberculosis and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, I used to work on the NIH. I'm very familiar with cryogenic units, and it's actually it's easy, but it's hard. Once you get down, I like to tell people I hate doing refrigeration because once you start messing with getting everything below the point of freezing, all the numbers get really messy. It becomes a lot harder to do refrigeration the colder things get. Your typical refrigerant like say R410A, which is what's the new refrigerant. R410A is the refrigerant we use for everything in air conditioning and heating right now. It boils at negative 55 degrees Fahrenheit. However, it's really hard to do the refrigeration process and get everything working when you're talking about things that are that cold, because you're like right there. But it's doable, and I have done it. And it's a multi-stage system. But anyway, so that phase change from vapor to liquid and liquid back to vapor, it's a huge amount of energy. It's a huge amount of energy, and that is that elementary process of liquid to vapor and vapor to liquid is what happens many, many, many times an hour as your HVAC system is running. And whether it's a heat pump, whether it's an AC system, that's the basics of it. And they've brought in this new product that they're pushing really hard. And that is a heat pump water heater. Yes, a heat pump water heater. I first saw them about 5 years ago. I'd heard them talked about before, but I'd never seen one. They started putting them out about 5 years ago, and they've been starting to push them a little bit more and more. And now this new code really pushes them.
Who makes them? Stock tip.
Everybody.
Who makes
Everybody.
them? Okay.
A.O. Smith. And so A.O. Smith, they're a major manufacturer. You get those at Ferguson. You get them at Home Depot or Lowe's. And in fact, there is a PSE rebate right now for heat pump water heaters. And they have shifted their rebates. They're doing what they call a midstream rebate, which means that it happens between the supplier and the contractor. Which it's really cool. It's a lot of paperwork on my end, and I basically have to show an invoice that the customer paid that they got their midstream rebate in order for me to get paid on it. But it's like a $600 rebate on the efficient ones. The cool part of this is at Home Depot right now, you can go buy a heat pump water heater and get $600 off at the register. So these heat pump water heaters, they're typically like $1,300 to like $2,500. But right now, you can buy one for as cheap as $750, which is cheaper than a tankless. If you have projects coming up, go get one. Although it sounds like I was talking to the PSE guy a week or so ago, and it sounds like they're going to have this midstream rebate for at least all of 2021 and some of 2022. They don't think they're going to change it anytime soon.
Is there any risk that there's going to be a run on these units because of the switch over, and maybe people should go load up on them, or what? If they can, I don't know how that works, but
that is the logistics supply chain management side of things. I will tell you, manufacturing in the HVAC industry took a huge hit with COVID. I mean, I was writing up my letter to my clients this year, trying to explain to them that my prices went up 10% at the supply house, 10% on furnaces, on heat pumps, on just everything. Because with COVID and the loss of manufacturing capacity, as people were getting sick and everything happening in China and Mexico. Everybody took a brutal beating in the field, and inventory is a struggle. It's a struggle right now. They're doing better than they were, especially as things are starting to relax now. But I think that come June, July, we're going to start having some major problems with keeping inventory going for things like Mitsubishi ductless heat pumps and heat pump water heaters. I think it's going to take probably 4 to 6 months before we really start seeing, because, real estate's going to keep going up, and flippers are going to keep happening, and construction's booming right now in the midst of a pandemic. It's the busiest year I've ever had in my life, and it's in the midst of a pandemic, no less. Everybody's getting everything remodeled everywhere. And
it's only going to get way worse once interest rates go up, because nobody's going to move. They're going to stay in their homes and remodel.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I mean, it's great. At the same time, my wife would like to see me again. At the same time, I think you've probably got a couple months before you're going to start seeing some stock shortages. And the hope on the manufacturing side is that they will have had enough time to have started to catch up and to be producing enough that they can keep up with demand. But so these heat pump water heaters are really cool because they stuck a 15,000 BTU refrigeration unit right on top of a normal electric water heater. And they dropped the condenser, the thing that handles the hot gas. They dropped that into the middle of the water heater so that the water is what cools down the gas because the water gets hot. The thing about heat pump water heaters is they've pretty much got to go in your garage, or there are some options to duct them outside if they're in your house, although it's not necessarily recommended, but it can be done.
Hey guys, it's Julie here with a quick break from the show to discuss an opportunity some of you may have interest in, which is to work more closely with me. On almost a daily basis, I get calls from investors and brokers, both new and experienced, asking me for guidance or advice. I love helping you guys out, and it keeps me on my toes too. So with that said, I wanted to let you know that I have a private broker coaching community called the VIP Education Community. And the best part is that it's 100% free. That's right, it's free to join. So whether you're a traditional broker or a broker investor, my VIP education community offers personalized one-on-one coaching from not just me, but also from my experienced broker friends with expertise in all disciplines of real estate and real estate investing. We'll teach and share our modern marketing strategies, our tech and lead generation resources, plus teach you how to identify or offer up opportunities for yourself or for your clients using techniques such as seller financing, lease options, land entitlement deals, BRRRR investing, flipping, multifamily or commercial coaching, whatever you like. We've got it all covered for you. The future of real estate is changing fast, and to stay in the game, it's time to learn about all the options you can offer your buyer and seller clients, as well as, if you want, learn how to use those skills to grow your own real estate portfolio. If you'd like more details about joining my VIP education community, reach out to me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com or text me at 206-910-2985 or just send me a Facebook message. My new favorite phrase is community equals confidence. So let's navigate the future of real estate together. Now, back to the show.
So if somebody's flipping a house here, if they have a flip, or obviously people who flip all the time or new construction, this is something they need to be thinking about, or they need to be planning for space for this?
They should, 100%. And here's the thing. Remember how I said there's a 1.5 credits is the alteration code number?
Yeah.
So 1.5 credits is a heat pump hot water heater in the new code.
There you go.
For alterations, you can spend an extra couple $100 and put a heat pump hot water heater in.
So there's the nugget today, right? That's a big nugget bomb right there today.
That's a huge nugget bomb. That's a huge nugget bomb. This is why I started laughing when I got into the code, and then I got trained up on all the rebates and everything that everyone's doing. And I'm like, oh, this cost difference is negligible.
So what are the myths of, well, let me just back it up for a second, because I'm going to talk stupid to you. So if I flip houses or I'm a builder, as of right now, I've got a project that I'm just getting ready to start construction on or start to flip. What do I have to do in regards to my heat? Let's say I'm doing a big remodel, like a gut job on a house, or I'm moving walls or whatever, or I'm doing new construction. Compared to what it was before to what I need to make a change on now, and some little tips, like look for space in the garage so you can get one of these in where you might not.
Right. So, okay. On that note, myths. It's not going to cost you an extra $20,000 to build. It's not. I could see where it could cost an extra 5, maybe 10 if you pick all the really awesome options, but not really. As far as most gut jobs and remodels that I've seen, you guys are already doing new windows, and the windows that are sold at Home Depot and Lowe's actually meet the energy code standard. Fun fact, surprising to everyone, the stuff they sell off the shelf meets energy code.
So what does that mean? If it does, that means that they don't have to do this, or what?
Well, no. Okay, so there's product ratings on Windows. This gets into what we call fenestration, which is a fancy word that basically is talking about the square footage of windows compared to the square foot of as a percentage of the wall surface. And it's a U factor. Now, scientifically speaking, the U factor is a heat transfer rate. It's how fast heat will transfer through it. And it is the inverse of an R value. So everyone knows what an R value is, right? You see like, oh yeah, R21 insulation, R15, R49 for your attic, things like that, right? So U is the inverse. So if a wall has an insulation value of R21 because it's insulated to R21 and there's no windows in it, the U factor of that wall is 0.048. Now, a lot of windows have a U value of about 0.3, which is an R value of about 3. Not a whole lot. And basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep your fenestration value at or around 0.3 or below. Which basically, with the newer windows and the newer window technologies, you could probably get. I haven't checked it with my architect friends, but I'm pretty sure if you use the right windows, you could get away with a glass house. Not that you'd want one, but in case you did, it would meet the 0.3 U factor because that's what a lot of the windows are now.
So if I was flipping a house and doing a full gut job, or a year ago versus now, am I putting in different windows or making sure I have different windows? What's the difference? Like, how is this?
There's no difference. There's no difference there. That's the laughable part of this whole thing. If you're in new construction, there's a lot of difference. If you're in remodel and alteration and flipping, there's only like a small difference. You're going to use the same windows you were already using.
What am I going to do different if I'm flipping?
R49 in your attic is the big thing. And anything you touch, any wall you open, anything you touch has to be brought up to the new energy code. 2x4 walls, it's R15 insulation. It used to be like R13 or something like that. Where it'll really impact you is in basement walls. Basement walls. Let me switch over to my thing here.
So if I'm flipping, what I'm going to be doing different is paying attention to my insulation and my R factor.
Right. You've got to upgrade your R factor a small amount. It's the same windows. It's the same roofing materials. You're going to pay a little bit more attention to the R value insulation. You are going to have to upgrade your ceilings to R49. Your attic. If you open that attic, you got to make that whole thing R49. And if you don't know what R49 is, that's like 18 to 24 inches of blown in insulation.
So what does all this translate to? These higher R factors in the product are more expensive, or Is it what's the expensive part? I'm having to touch more areas, or the material product I'm buying is going to cost more? Or is it like labor cost to open up more areas and touch more areas of the house that I maybe didn't have to touch before?
No, because if you're not touching it, you don't have to touch it.
Okay.
If you're not touching it on a remodel, if you're not touching it, you don't have to upgrade it. The big thing is you have to fill out a full energy code worksheet on it. You have to have the glazing schedule. You have to know what all the window sizes are. And if they're not new windows going in, if you're leaving in the old windows, you have to use talk to a guy like me and borrow my manual J and basically say, all right, it's a single pane window. The textbook U factor is X. You're going to have to basically put together this worksheet with your glazing schedule, your fenestration value, and your heating system sizing. And
is that a thing that I had to do before and it's different, or I didn't have to do the schedule?
You did not have to do this before.
So if I'm one of those general contractors that just gets my license with a piece of paper, and now I need to know when is this going to get checked? When is it going to trigger that it gets checked?
It gets checked at the permit office as they're issuing your building permit. This is something that they're going to now start requiring you to turn in with your permits, is this paperwork. And like I said, because of the way Washington works, every jurisdiction's a little bit different. And they're all still freaking out, still trying to figure out how they're going to basically input this information into their code. A great example is I've got a house.
So if I'm flipping a house right now, I would need to go to that city, double check what I know what the Washington state requirements are based on what you're telling me, but each city might have an overlay requirement. And they might not even require you to turn in your energy code worksheet yet. So do I need to do that before I start flipping? So I need to know
if you're targeting a flip in a city, or you're targeting a city for flipping, you need to go do a cursory inspection, and or what I've really found is the best way to do it is shoot a really easy email off to the inspection department and assume it'll take them a couple of days. Hey, I'm looking at doing a major alteration in the area. I just want to check what your requirements were to meet energy code for major alterations. So you got to write, and they'll shoot you back some governmental gobbledygook. And if you did that in Seattle right now, they'd say, we don't know yet. Follow back with us in a few months, which means if you're flipping in Seattle, get your permit in now, because it's all based on permit time. So I'm doing a flip in Lakewood right now, and we have been waiting for our structural engineer to get our permit stuff together for a really long time, and it's really frustrating. Between my partner and I, we've been going back and forth for like 3.5 months waiting for a structural engineer so we can finalize our permits for City of Lakewood. The house is almost done and ready to sell. We have to get it permitted. City of Lakewood's like, oh yeah, we haven't figured out yet what we're doing with the energy code, so you're fine. They won't know until like April. But
still, the 2018 code is in effect, right?
But it still is in effect, technically. But a lot of the inspectors haven't even been trained on it. And a lot of what's really happening is this is a great case of the government pushing a really good idea too soon. And the fact that no one in the industry is prepared for it. Had COVID not hit and a pandemic not shut down everything, we'd be having a much different conversation right now, because everyone would be in full compliance. Everyone would know what they're doing. All the inspectors are trained to look for it now. But as of right now, it's like a wild west of as fast as you can get your permit in, you might not have to do all this stuff. If you get caught and have to do this stuff, you can put a call into me or to an architect or any number of people, and we can help you put together a glazing chart and put together your energy code worksheet. The real thing is there is a chart that you have to go down, and you have to select a bunch of different options on it, on where you're going to get your credits for the energy code and what you're going to do to meet the energy code. It's really, really handy chart. I refer to it all the time when I'm doing these things for new construction. And that's basically what my whole write-up has been going over, is that chart and all the different options. One of the things that they're pushing really big, they're pushing heat pumps. they've added in a table. The biggest honest to goodness, the biggest change in the code is they've done away on the plumbing side with the low flow shower heads. It used to be if you installed low flow water fixtures in the house, you could pick up like a half a credit or a credit. If you install a tankless water heater, you get a half a credit or a credit. Those all went away. They introduced a table that's called the fuel normalization credits. It's the very first part before you even get into the options table for where you're going to get your code compliance from. They have the fuel normalization credits, and gas is worth 0 credits. And if you use cadets only, you actually get a -1 credit. And it's the first time the Washington Energy Code has introduced negative credits on things. It's kind of cool and kind of handy because they've got
where do you get
options?
This chart? Where's that at?
If you go
and we'll make sure it's in the show notes.
Yeah. It's going to be a big thing. Where is this? Is this the checklist?
We can keep rolling.
Yeah.
You can send it
to we'll keep rolling. I'll send it to you guys.
I hate to count on this, but I have to meet this energy credit stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so it used to be I might do it one way. Now, if you're recommending to a flipper, what's the easiest way? The first, I don't know how many 3 things they're going to do if they want to make their lives easy and they don't want to mess with this, they're going to make sure they have the right windows, the right insulation, and
so. Here's what I can tell you. For flippers, you want to make life easy and life simple. You're going to plan to put in a ductless mini split heat pump in the largest living zone of your house.
Those the largest living zone, right?
They go on the wall.
Yeah.
They go on the wall, or if you want to get really fancy, they actually Mitsubishi and LG both make an air handler style unit that you can replace the furnace with, and it's a furnace, but it doesn't use gas. It hooks up to a heat pump outside, and it's a very efficient ducted mini split.
Which is more cost effective to install.
The dirt cheap option is going to be a simple wall hung mini split. You can find people who can install them anywhere from $3,000 to $5,500. It all depends on who you call and what area you're in. But you put one of these in your largest living zone, you're going to pick up a half a credit on your fuel normalization chart. You're going to pick up another credit on your HVAC side of things. You do that, and you put in a heat pump water heater, and you're set. Right there, that in itself is about 3 credits.
So that takes care of the whole thing.
That takes care of the whole thing.
No matter what kind of wall moving or whatever you're doing.
It's going to take care of your energy credit requirements.
So a mini split in your biggest living area and what are we calling it? A water heater?
A heat pump water heater.
A heat pump water heater. So $3,300 to $5,500 for the wall unit and another.
For the water heater, I mean, it varies. It depends on how much you're currently paying for a water heater. The actual increase in cost on the unit with the rebate, you can get ones for an extra about $300. So instead of spending $400 to $500 on an electric water heater, you can spend $700 to $800 and get a heat pump water heater.
And then you're good with your credits. And so the point is, you didn't have to turn in this worksheet before, and now you do.
Right.
So you got to that'll screw people up, right? Because if they go and try to get their permit approved, that is a lot of time to go back and try and figure that out. Especially if you didn't screw it up, right? If you didn't do it right from the beginning and you don't have the right credits in there, you're on hard money loan with your flip.
Yeah. Now the thing is, you, the flipper, can learn this pretty easily and pretty quickly. I am trying to work with, I'm not in WARI anymore due to some personal issues, but
are you going to do how about a Zoom? Like, how about we help you in a class on how to do a worksheet?
That's what I've been trying to find. I've been trying to find somebody somewhere because I am not super huge into the internet networking and the Zoom world. I'm planning to host a couple of classes, one on the full energy code aimed for the new construction guys, because I've really got it dialed in on the new construction side on how to do this for super cheap and easy. And then another one for flippers and investors for trying to navigate the energy code worksheet. Because if you've if you've never gone and learned what an R value or a U value or fenestration means or any of this stuff, it's really confusing. And you just look at it just,
Well, I mean, the general contractor you hire, if you're your own GC or whatever, you guys might have no clue, or not be detailed enough, or give yourself, prevent yourself from having to do do-overs or delays. Do-overs and delays on flips are the hard part. So, Johnny, we would help you get the word out about your classes when you're ready to do that. You just let us know.
Yeah,
we're getting a little long here, so I wanted to say, what about for new construction? For people doing new build, what's the myth change, or what do they need to know?
For people doing new
garage, whatever.
For people doing new construction, they're going to want the same heat pump water heater for sure. It's the exact same on the heat pump water heater side. They're, as long as they meet basic code standards on the exterior and on the fenestration and U values, they will be fine. They don't have to do anything extra. The place where you're going to pick up all of your credits is now really focusing on HVAC. Honest to goodness, I can meet 100% of your credits just in the HVAC section, between the fresh air intake, between the ducting, the unit itself, the fuel credits, and a heat pump water heater. We can meet all your credits without getting too far or too long or too into the weeds.
Oh, what are we calling them? Energy credits?
Yeah, they're energy credits.
Maybe we should call this podcast "How to Meet Your Energy Credits" with Jonny Nylen.
Yeah, so there you
how
go.
To meet your energy? Should we? I mean,
yeah, there you go.
Joe, how to meet your energy credits with Jonny Nylen is what we'll call this one.
Panasonic bath fans are what everybody puts in for bath fans these days, because they have the Whisper Quiet and they're cheap and they're at Platt Electric Supply House because all the electricians put them in. Panasonic makes a bath fan that is what we call an HRV, and this is big in new construction. And the remodelers need to listen up, because I'm really tired of remodel guys not putting stuff in properly. Part of the energy code is in making sure that you have fresh air intake into the house. A lot of inspectors have let everybody get by for eons on the concept of operable windows, meaning, oh, you need fresh air, you open the windows. They're going to stop allowing that. They are going to, one of the things that mechanical contractors are going to check for is making sure that you have fresh air intake coming into your house. The easiest, honest to God way to do that, Panasonic makes a $400 and some odd bath fan that is 40 cubic feet per minute of air exchange. It's a heat recovery ventilator, or an HRV. It exhausts air and it brings fresh air in, but the airs never touch each other. And there's a wheel in the middle that spins around, and that wheel transfers heat from the outgoing air to the incoming air, so the incoming air is not freezing cold in wintertime. It doesn't do a perfect job, but it does a pretty good job. And Panasonic has these things, and it's a bath fan. And it's got two ducts coming off of it that both go to the roof. One sucks in, one blows out. And that actually meets one of your energy. That means 1.0 energy credits right there. There's a bigger one that maxes
so you
out
have
the
three
energy
bathrooms.
credit.
How many do you need? 3 credits? How many credits do we need? 3.5?
No. You need 1.5.
1.5. Okay.
On remodels, you need like 1.5. But do one of these bath fans, and it meets your. So, for instance, you have International Mechanical Code has it so that you have a laundry fan in your bathroom, right? That runs all the time, nonstop. You're going to replace that laundry bathroom fan with one of these fans right here. And that way you're constantly bringing in fresh air to the house and exhausting old air. And that'll meet your code standard for fresh air. And it'll also let you pick up an energy credit. For a new construction guys, they make a bigger unit that is, it's about $1,000 in cost, but they make a bigger unit that is designed to tie into the ductwork that does this fresh air changeover, and it picks you up like 1.5 or 2. Yeah, I think it picks you up 2 credits.
How many credits you need in new construction?
In new construction, so that's one of the big changes. In new construction, you used to need 4 credits. You now need 6 credits for your average size house. They up stuff quite a bit. There is a small dwelling, which is less than 1,500 square feet, is now 3 credits. A medium dwelling, which is more than 1,500 but less than 5,000, is now 6. A large dwelling is 7 credits. R2, if you have a built-in ADU, you have to meet at least 4.5 credits because you now can't count under the R2. If you're doing an addition,
that's a good topic right there.
This is a good topic. Additions, I forgot this. If you are doing an addition less than or equal to 500 square feet, you need 1.5 credits. If you are doing an addition that is larger than 500 square feet, it puts you under the table. So if you're doing an addition of, say, 1,000 square feet, you're going to have to come up with, between 3 and 6 credits, depending on your jurisdiction. You're going to have, just doing an addition, you're going to have.
How does that work if you have like a dadu or something or on the property?
Well, a dadu is its own dwelling unit, which means that it would be, your dwelling would be under the R2 category or multifamily, which means that you've got to hit 4.5 credits. Now that's if it's the same building. If it's a separate dwelling unit on the same property, I'm pretty sure that under they're going to put that under new construction standard.
It's going to be, what do we say, 6?
6 credit. Well, you'll probably be at 3 credits unless you're going to put a 1,500 square foot dadu in the back. Although I do know a few people who have done that. But
1,000 square foot dadu would be what?
Probably, it looks like 3 credits. Just looking at the chart here.
Since that's such a hot topic these days.
Yeah, it is. It is, and
you should teach one of your classes specifically for ADU dadu topic.
You're right. I 100% should.
So you should
there's a lot in there.
You should do a flip Zoom, a new construction one, and a dadu, ADU class.
For sure.
And use us to get the word out. We'll help you out with that.
Sweet.
What else do we want to cover here? We got to wrap it up. We're getting long.
What questions do you guys have about all this stuff? Joe, you got any questions about this kind of stuff?
I don't. I am the guy that makes this happen so that everyone can see this in the world when it gets published. So Julie is our expert.
I'm the non-expert that's supposed to ask you a question. I should have had Chris co-host this with me. So next time we do one of these, Chris Myers and I are in the same community team here with my VIP education community. Root, if you guys don't know Chris Myers, Revision Homes, you guys need to get to know him. I think he might even be available if you guys have projects too, but he definitely is doing his own flips and new builds, as Johnny knows him well too.
Yeah, I'm doing his new build in Bellevue.
Yeah. We love you, Chris. Right on. Next time I'll have him on here, actually co-hosting with me, so you guys can geek out on the same language, because I don't know what the hell's going on. It's like you're a scientist and a doctor. This is a whole nother language to us non-general contractor types. So
it's the engineering side of the industry, and it's the side that I geek out on.
Well, you got to be a math geek too. I've noticed. I'm impressed with your language here that you're using today. You can tell that you have a passion for this. So we want to help you get the word out about your classes, because we have a platform to help you get the word out. So if you guys are interested in Johnny's classes, I would like you to respond to this YouTube video today. Joe, what can they do? Can they just make comments below that says, I want to be in the flip class, I want to be in the new build class, I want to be in the ADU dadu class? Can they do that?
Yep, that's a great idea. Just put it down in the comments below in the YouTube video, and we will get that information to you. I monitor all the comments within usually a day. So,
all right, guys, drop it below. Let us know. And whoever makes the most comments, maybe we'll get Johnny to do that class first. So whatever topic, flips, new construction, or dadu ADUs, maybe we'll get him. We'll twist his arm through our platform here to get that class going for you guys first. Before we wrap up, is there anything else, Johnny? You're going to send us maybe Joe. You just send that to Joe at SeattleInvestorsClub.com, whatever the chart is or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I got lots of resources for you guys that I will send over. I'll send you guys over everything I got, as well as like I said, I can send it over as a PDF, or I can send it over as the Google Doc link so you guys can see it in its live form. I've got it looks like it's going to end up being about 20 pages. I'm still writing the last couple sections here, but I got a 20-page write-up explaining in detail all of this really cool stuff on the energy code, how to meet it, how to beat it, and what to keep in mind when you're doing all this stuff. And kind of how it all works. I didn't cover it today, but I've got the first, I don't know, 7 or 8 pages just kind of explaining how heat pumps work, how water heaters work, how the efficiency ratings from the federal government, how to read and understand those and get those to a common comparable point. Because there's a lot of complicated stuff when you start talking about the water heater side of things versus talking about the SEER or the HPSF when it comes to heat pumps and AC. And I try to break that all down in a way that the layman could understand and learn.
Awesome.
How to compare and contrast those.
One thing I want to tell you, Jonny, is, and we're wrapping it up here, so I'm reminding everybody who's listening, it does not matter where you are across the U.S., Canada, it doesn't matter where you're at, anywhere. Every Thursday, Pacific time, from 11:30 to 12:30, we have a weekly roundtable meetup. Everybody's invited. Jonny, you jump on there with us. People might have questions about their HVAC or these credits, and you should jump in with us. We'll tell you how to, all you have to do, actually, I'll tell everybody how to get in on this. You just go to meetup.com, search for Seattle Investors Club, and the Zoom link to access this meeting is there. That Zoom link does not change from week to week. So you can take it and copy and paste that Zoom link into your calendar wherever you are. And if you need expert tips, I'll tag Jonny here going forward on our meetings and have him maybe jump in with us when he can. I know you're out in the field probably during that time, Jonny, on Thursdays from 11:30 to 12:30. But if you're not,
I can make some time.
Yeah. Let alone people, we can get some of these questions or forward and drop you guys this podcast again or whatever, share some of the worksheets or things that Jonny's going to give us. But Jonny, if you can make it sometimes 11:30 to 12:30 on a Thursday, every single Thursday Pacific time, that's where we're at. And you guys can plug in and ask Jonny your questions there. Or if you guys have questions, make sure you drop them below on this YouTube. Can they do that, Joe?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
They do. Absolutely. Wherever they, if there's not a comment place on the platform that you're watching or listening to this, just shoot an email to me at joe@seattleinvestorsclub.com. And if there is, drop it in there and I'm monitoring it.
Awesome. All right, guys, you guys should all be subscribed to our YouTube channel so we can easily track your comments, wants, needs, and all that stuff right there on these podcasts. So go hit that subscribe bell or whatever those cool terms are. People say smash it or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I listen to my kids watch that damn Norris Nuts. I hate that show, Norris Nuts. I don't know if you guys have kids, and please, I know. So don't even get me started there, but smash that like button or however they say all that stuff. Anyways, that we're going to wrap it up for today, Jonny. We could talk to you for hours, but instead what we're going to do is we're going to start pushing people to these classes and on these topics, maybe specifically for the different groups of people, the flippers, the new construction, and the dadu peeps.
Sounds fantastic.
Good to you? We can be your partner to help you promote your classes if that works for you. All we want to do is give our audience awesome content to help them be successful. And certainly glad to have spent this time today with you and continue our relationship here going forward, right? Keep everybody up to snuff so they can save time, money. Last thing you need to do is burn your time on these flips and projects if you aren't prepared with these worksheets that you're going to need. Sounds like there's an entire side gig of worksheet expert type consultants that maybe you should start hiring some people on your team just to help people do their worksheets or something like that.
If I could just make that what I do all day, that'd be fantastic.
There you go. Well, maybe we can help you make that happen. So, all right, guys, Joe, we're wrapping it up. Is there anything else we need to tell anybody? If you haven't yet joined our Facebook page for Seattle Investors Club, get on Facebook and do that, because we have special things that we drop and announcements on there for cool trainings. Sometimes what I'm doing, just say short notice. I might say, hey, 30 minutes from now, I'm doing a special training on some topic related to real estate investing, broker stuff, or whatever for my private coaching community, which is the VIP education community. And I'm letting people in on those ninja special training. So pay attention, but you can't get that information unless you're on our Facebook page for Seattle Investors Club. So there you go. So today, Joe, where can they find the details of today's podcast?
Yeah, all the show notes are at saleinvestorsclub.com/141. That's saleinvestorsclub.com/141. And we're still looking for more reviews on the podcast. So wherever you're listening to it or watching it, like Julie said, YouTube's great. But if you're listening to it someplace else, we'd love a review there as well.
Awesome stuff, guys. Thank you, Jonny.
Thank you, Julie. And thanks, Joe. I appreciate being a part of this. Y'all have a great one.
We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.